Join Doctors Savanah Craig and Ronnetta Sartor as we navigate life beyond graduation. Real conversations about forging our own paths in our early years in our careers. There's a reason it's called practicing dentistry. All right, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Graduation. I am Savanah Craig, and with me as always
is Ronnetta Sartor. We're happy to be back.
So this week, I think we wanted to talk about some, real things that are going on in our lives right now, and the idea of finding sort of experts and how these experiences in our own lives have given us a new perspective in patient care and building trust with our patients. So, Ronnetta, do you want to share a little bit about what's been going on in your life?
Sure. So, we've kind of talked about my back injury that I've had and how it's been a journey to get into a place where on a daily basis I'm comfortable and able to do what I need to do for myself and for my patients. And so one of the things that's happened recently is I've been seeing a chiropractor for a couple of years. Initially, things were going great and then not so great. And so for the past sort of year, I've been advocating for myself and saying, hey, this isn't right. Like something feels wrong. And recently, I decided to get a second opinion, reach out to another chiropractor, and I have been told something completely different than what the previous well, not completely different. So diagnosis pretty much is the same, but analysis of what's going on and approach to correcting it is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of puts you in a space where it's like, who do you trust, right? And I think I have probably experienced what a lot of our patients have experienced, where they go to the dentist down the road and they tell them one thing, and then they come in our office and we may tell them something a little bit different. And so from that perspective, I've experienced the highs and lows that I've seen a lot of our patients go through. And it's one of those things where I feel confident that I made the right decision to find a new chiropractor. The only thing I wish I had done is get the second opinion sooner.
Yeah.
Um,
what I guess what prompted you to get that second opinion? Was it a gut feeling? Was it not having progress? What did that sort of look like?
So I think it was all of the above. So part of it is, and they always say that doctors make the worst patients, right? So,
Absolutely.
I would go to my appointments and I'd be like, I think we should get a radiograph. I think we need to get a radiograph to see what you're adjusting and see if the adjustments you've been doing have worked.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, okay, if I ask for that and then it keeps being obstacles to making that happen,
Yeah.
then I need to go someplace else where I can have what I need and get the treatment that I need. One of the things that was happening is that I would get adjusted, and instead of having relief, I would have more pain. And so my thought process was, well, darn, should I just stop getting adjustments? Because I feel a lot better when I don't go,
Yeah.
And when that starts to happen, you have to start thinking, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. And it's best that I figure out a way to move forward. And there's nothing against the previous chiropractor. It's okay, it's not working for me. And the same thing with our patients, right? It may be a time or season in their lives where we're the end all be all, and it might be a period where they need someone more specialized to do something that maybe we're not equipped to do.
Yeah.
So it's been very eye-opening, and I think I definitely can empathize with our patients a whole lot more.
Yeah. I think it always sounds so hokey, but going back to that trust your gut thing, and also for patients who may or may not be probably not listening to us, but um, there's a difference between asking for something, like you said, a radiograph, and being explained why, or why that may or may not be the best treatment, versus being sort of written off. And so I don't, not that every dentist, not that I'm the right dentist for every patient, and you're welcome to always seek a second opinion, but sometimes we might not be in alignment and there's a reason for it, but I'm would like to think I'm going to be the type of dentist who would explain to you why that is. You know what I mean?
Right. So, like, for me, it's not a good enough explanation to say, well, that's just the way your back is.
Yeah.
No, I need more. You
Yeah.
got to tell me
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
because I know enough
Right. Right.
to know when you're BSing me pretty much.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what's been going on in my world. It's been a process. But I think that the new chiropractor and I are on a good trajectory, and I'm excited for what the future holds. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah.
So what's new in your world, Savannah?
Apparently home ownership or the potential for home ownership. Um, so we're dentists. We're not trained in like business and all of that nonsense. So been trying to figure out um in the potential talks of ownership and different things that looks like potentially in the future. How do mortgages and house payments and all of those things sort of factor into that as well? And it's harder to get that answer than you might think. Everybody has sort of a different opinion, it seems, on should a dentist buy the practice before getting a house, and practice loans versus mortgages, and all of debt to income ratios, and all of these things that I don't totally understand. And so I've been really trying to talk with a variety of people and get different opinions and try to fully understand the implications of various decisions and how that might affect my self-determined future, but also current happiness and those sorts of things, and the happiness of my husband who wants a workshop or a garage. So that has been a lot of adulting, and it can be very stressful when you don't fully understand these processes and what banks are looking at and what is quote good debt versus bad debt. And it's been super overwhelming. And I just, like, in my relationship dynamics, I'm the one to like make those phone calls and try to figure that stuff out. And I do feel like, because I'm the one sort of complicating our financial picture, I feel like I have to take the ownership in some of those things. And my husband's so just like laid back that he's like, well, whatever, it's fine, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, Adam, like, focus. So that has been it's just challenging when you don't, like you said, I can empathize with the patients because I am not the expert in any of these areas. I don't understand bank loans. I don't understand mortgages on a very deep level, and what things change. And you got to send all of your bank statements. And I'm like, all of these things are like fluid, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
money comes in, money goes out. And we were laughing trying to find all of your friggin' accounts and logins.
Oh yeah,
And I
the
was like,
joy.
do you think my grandparents just like showed up somewhat and was like, promise you I've got money? And the person that owned the home was like, sounds good to me. And they just like bought a house on a handshake, versus like I have to find 700 logins to, like, I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I think it's going to be a fun and interesting journey for you, though.
It is. It is. But like I said, Adam's just like, yeah, this is, if I have a garage, I'm good. And I'm like, bro, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think And then I'm like the worst person for you to ask advice to because, like, you know, everyone pretty much says that you get the practice first and then the house. And then you're like, well, Ronnetta, what did you do? And I'm like, I definitely didn't do that. But I think part of it was because I mean, it was a time when interest rates were like little or nothing.
Absolutely. But I've been talking to all of these banks and they're telling me that you should do the mortgage before the practice because of when you become, I guess, an owner, your income is looked at as owner income and they sort of ignore any previous work history. And please, people, if you're listening and you're in banking and you can explain these things to us, please chime in. But yeah, so they were saying if you wait until you're an owner, you have to almost wait 2 years to prove your like income.
I got it.
And so they were like, it's basically before you buy anything or buy into anything, or like 2 to 3 years after.
That would make sense though, because from a practice standpoint, like I bought my practice almost 3 years ago, but a lot
Uh-huh.
of times banks love to see 2 years worth of historicals once I've taken over.
Right.
Because to them, like what the previous owner did has nothing to do with me.
Right.
So I definitely can see that. But you're right. How are you supposed to know? Like, what if you were waiting? And the good part is that you were making those phone calls and talking to people, so you have like more of a clue of what's going on and what to do. But just imagine if you hadn't, and let's just say your rent, fingers crossed it doesn't, but let's just say it goes up tremendously like next year, and you're like, oh, I should have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why I'm a crazy person who makes all these phone calls. And my husband's like, it'll be fine. And I'm like, Adam, it's only fine because I called 1,000 people to get the answer.
I mean, it's fine for him, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's right. He's right then.
He's chilling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that was super interesting because so many people, even in our Ignite group chat, were like, no, 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 banks want to see you get the practice first. And I understand that from like a location standpoint, right? You're not going to want, if you're not sure where you're going to practice, you don't want to necessarily buy a house and then be like, oh shoot, I'm going to actually practice an hour and a half from here. But no, I guess no, in theory, that you're going to have to like wait a while, I guess.
I don't know how true it is, but I can think my thought process too is a lot of people assume that when you transition from being the associate to the owner, your income is going to go up too.
Right.
And so you have more opportunities for houses that you may not have been able to look at as an associate. So that may be another aspect of it. But I think a lot of it has to do with that financial sheet that the bank wants you to fill out. Like the office is an asset.
Right.
One more asset that you have that you didn't have as an associate, you know?
Right.
Because they know, okay, well, she doesn't pay, you know, we can, you know, she should be able to borrow from the office or something to pay, you know.
Right. And I don't know, again, I know nothing about banking, but I'm assuming the practice kind of looks like an asset and a liability depending on your like loan position and debt on the office.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's kind of like how people talk about houses too. Like, is a house an asset or is it a liability? You know, like especially if
Both.
it's one that you're living in and not like
Renting out.
renting. Yeah.
Yeah. So adulting is hard.
And who do you trust?
Who
How do you know
yeah,
who to trust?
exactly. Especially when it's oh how the tables have turned on we are now not the experts. Not that we've ever claimed to be the experts in chiropractic or banking. And I do think it's back to that like gut feeling of just who feels like the right fit for you. I think the other thing I've been talking a lot about with friends is the idea of like failing fast, and like that sounds bad because these are big decisions and your back is important and these things, but I think when you feel that gut reaction that you need to make a decision or call someone to get the information, just do it, and don't. If you feel you need to get a second opinion, do it. If you feel like you need to call somebody else and get another idea of the lay of the land, do it, and try to capture as much information as you can before you make an irreversible decision.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? That was a long way to get there.
No, it makes a ton of sense. I think that was a perfect way to sum up what we're saying. Because you're like, we're not experts and we don't pretend to be. And then I thought about it. You know what? I am an expert of my body. I've lived here all of the years.
Ooh, I like that.
All of the years for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah, I've been in this body. So like when it's not doing what it should do, even if I don't know what's wrong, I know what's not right, you know?
Oh, who do you trust? You trust yourself.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you know what's best for you.
Yeah, because you mentioned trusting your gut. Nobody knows that gut feeling, that intuition, that thing that's telling you halt or press forward. Nobody knows that more than you do. And I think the longer I talked about being an expert in my body because I've lived here, but the longer we live in these bodies, I think that our gut, we learn to trust it a whole lot more. So that's really good. We answered our question this time. Who do you trust?
That
you
never
trust
happens.
You, right? Yeah. All right. We need to save this one for the books. Like we actually answered the question.
Yes.
It wasn't rhetorical.
Yes. We gotta end it there because we've had an epiphany, and that's as good as we're gonna do, people. So until next time.
But before we leave, we would love to know what's going on in your life. Have you had these situations that have occurred where you don't know who to trust? Who's telling you the truth? One of my friends, she's so funny. She said it best. She said, you know, when you get those 2 letters before your name, that DR, it's almost like you're walking around with a $sign on your forehead. And it can make it really difficult, especially if you don't have the right people that's guiding you and directing you, or the right community of people to, you know, once you get a piece of information, going and checking to make sure you know that it's on par with what you believe. But in addition to that, trusting yourself to know that, you know, there are no wrong decisions. It's just, you know, picking the one that's best for you at that time. And so let us know what's going on in your world as it pertains to who do you trust. And if there's anything, if you are someone that knows about mortgages and banking, reach out to Savanah.
If we've somehow found our way to chiropractor Instagram, reach out.
Right. Or if you have any exercises that has helped you to like strengthen your core, or if you have experienced back pain or any type of pain, and you've worked your way through it, I would love any information or resources you all have. So on that note, until next time,
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond Graduation. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to share it with a friend. Connect with us on social media at Savanah Craig DDS and at Dr_Sartor. And remember, you are not alone on this journey.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Graduation, brought to you by Ignite DDS and Future Dentists. This episode was sponsored by Ignite DDS Coaching. We build self-determined futures. For more information, please reach out to the Ignite DDS team.